This episode of Patient Conversations with Leah is proudly sponsored by Nuvation Bio.
Hello, and welcome back to Patient Conversations with Leah. Today, I have with me Ashley, who is a ROS1 non-small cell lung cancer patient, to share her experience with actually having the ROS1 biomarker. We really want to hone in on what it's like to be diagnosed as a young person, not only with lung cancer, but also with the ROS1 biomarker that not as many people are familiar with. So thank you for joining us. And Ashley, I'm so glad to have you today. And I would love if you want to just start out by telling us just a brief synopsis of your diagnosis.
My diagnosis took a little bit of time. So I started out with really crippling back pain. I could not lay down. I didn't lay down flat for months. I was sleeping in an armchair in my bedroom, and I had gone to my primary care, and I had also had blood clots around the same time. And I have a blood clotting disorder, but I think that it was probably more related to my cancer at that point. And she was so cold. And she sent me to physical therapy. And when I went back to her and said, physical therapy is making my pain worse, I don't know what to do, she literally told me, that's all I can do for you. She gave me Eliquis for my blood clots, which is a blood thinner, and kind of sent me on my way. But the hard part is I hadn't had insurance for a while. So when I first started feeling pain in my back, I didn't have insurance, and then I had to wait. When I finally got on a private insurance plan, they made me wait a month to even go to the doctor. So I got it in January, couldn't go until February. And by that point, I had been in pain for, I think, probably close to 6 months. And then I didn't get my diagnosis until May of that year. So May of 2023, I was finally diagnosed, but not through my primary care. So I started going to a chiropractor. And when my chiropractor finally got to where she couldn't even touch me anymore, she was like, okay, I'm going to send you to get an MRI. And the day that I got the MRI, the second I walked through my back door coming home, the orthopedic doctor called and said, you have cancer. Just like on the phone. That's how I found out. It was Cinco de Mayo, which was a Friday. And he was like, I think it's breast cancer. I'm going to try to get you in with the best doctors on Monday. And so he was so sweet. He should not have told me that way, but it actually worked out fine for my personality. So I went to the hospital. I went in that Saturday, and they basically said there's nothing that we can do for you until we really know your diagnosis. Found out that it was lung cancer while I was at the hospital, and then didn't find out that it was ROS1 for a couple of weeks. I was waiting for my biomarker testing, and I had no idea what that meant while I was waiting for that. So during that time, I was just like, okay, I have lung cancer, but I guess they still don't know how to treat me. And I felt like I was just forgotten and not important because I didn't understand what the waiting period was for. I was like, why are they not giving me medicine? What is happening? So that's my diagnosis story in a nutshell. It was kind of chaotic, but I had a really great support and a really great team. So even though I didn't understand fully, my team has been really incredible.
Yeah, that is, we hear this commonly, even for me, I was told I had lung cancer, I was inpatient, and then it was like, okay, so now what? And the first doctor I saw didn't even suggest biomarker testing. He just told me I had 6 to 12 months to live. And we had another doctor come in and he said, well, let's do biomarker testing. Well, one, my husband and I didn't even know that I could get lung cancer because I don't have any known risk factors for lung cancer.
Yeah.
And
same.
two, we had never heard of biomarker testing. So we were like, what? Oddly enough, the doctor that I saw wanted to start me on chemo and immunotherapy right away as we waited for biomarker testing, which would not have been good. But so it's interesting to me, they say to you, we're doing biomarker testing. And we don't really know what that is, right? So what did you do to figure out what biomarker testing was, or did someone explain it to you at all? Or was it just kind of like you just waited and got the results?
I kind of just waited and got the results. But during that time, I feel like I wasn't holding on to anything. Like my brain was not capable of like retaining information. And so my parents went with me to every doctor's appointment, and um I think that my parents probably understood a little bit more than I did at the time, and that sounds so silly. I was 30, 31 years old, but I like yeah, I think that I wasn't capable of like really understanding what was happening. I did have this fear of I'm going to die. It's so silly. Like I love antiques. I have a bunch of things at my house, and I started writing my friends' names. I've gotten married since, but I like
Congratulations.
my husband will probably have all of it, but I started writing my friends' names on the back of my things. Like, I want this person to have this specific thing. I had no idea what any of it meant, but I
Yeah.
thought that I was going to die very soon.
Yeah, and I think, you're talking about like you couldn't process or retain. I think that's part of our when we're diagnosed, the shock, the like kind of the trauma of the diagnosis itself. Like, I mean, I remember like there are things I am now remembering even 5.5 years later that happened and were said in the hospital that I didn't remember until like 3 weeks ago. And my husband would be like, "Yeah, that happened." I'm like, "Hmm." But I think that's just kind of our brain's way of protecting us or something.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, your mom and dad, I always encourage people when I talk to them, make sure you have somebody go with you to begin with. Cause, my husband was like your parents. I think he understood more
Mhm.
what was going on because I wasn't in the space. So it's good that you had a close relationship with your parents that could kind of usher you through that a little bit more. Um, so obviously we don't know what biomarker testing is when we hear typically, and that's normal. And then they tell you, they call you, or you go in and you hear you have ROS1 driven lung cancer. What was going through your head at that point? And did you know what that really meant at the time?
My doctor was very patient and sweet, and he was so kind. Um, and he told me this is a fairly rare marker, I guess. In my head, that was a little bit even more frustrating for me because I was like, okay, I have this thing. It's rare. How much research has even been done on this? Like, what are my options going to be? I've been told that I'm not a candidate for chemo, and that immunotherapy would kind of be like a last ditch effort to try and get treatment for me. But yeah, I running through my brain at that point was just kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen to me. A rare cancer feels even scarier.
Right, right. Did your doctor present you with different treatment options and explain to you like what they were and how they worked? Or was he more of like, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and here it is?
Yeah, I think both. He told me what the options were, and the best so there was a spot in my brain that they were not sure if it was um, cancer or not, but because they wanted to lean toward, yes, this is probably cancer. So he told me about the options, but said that the one that is available is probably your best option for also penetrating the brain. And so he did tell me that there were a few others available, but that would be the best one. And so he talked to me a lot, and he talked to me a lot about the medicine, but I still didn't know how much time that would give me. And my doctor asked, like, do you want to know about how long you could live? And I said no. That was not something that I wanted to know at the moment. But he did a really good job of walking me through different medications and the options that I had. Um,
That,
and so I'm still he's not my oncologist anymore. He switched to a different hospital, but I have nothing but incredible things to say about him, and he was so, so kind throughout the entire thing.
that's awesome because having that person that you can trust and who is kind and listens and answer questions and spends time with you explaining is huge. Well, I really, really appreciate you being here this morning with us and just discussing kind of what it's like to get that diagnosis and the initial part of waiting on a biomarker test and then finding out what treatment's going to be. So this, I think, will be very helpful to listeners out there and people who are watching. So I'm going to encourage everyone that's watching to like and follow this episode and Young Lung Cancer Initiative's YouTube page so that you can follow along for part 2 with Ashley, where we're going to dive in a little bit more about kind of like what treatment is like for a ROS1 patient. So that's kind of like a sneak peek. So Ashley, again, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Of course.